On my wedding day, I caught my beloved sister and my husband having an affair in the makeup room. I exposed them in public and turned around to marry my ex-husband's younger brother instead, making those scumbags go crazy. Half an hour before the wedding was supposed to start, my groom was nowhere to be found. Lucas's parents were frantic, searching everywhere. As the soon-to-be daughter-in-law, I thoughtfully suggested an idea. Why don't we play the wedding video before the ceremony? The wedding company had created a romantic video of the newlyweds, meant to be shown in the banquet hall after the ceremony. Lucas's mom put her right hand on her chest, let out a sigh of relief, and said, "You're such a considerate and thorough girl. So calm and unflustered. With you around, our family is sure to rise to another level." I flashed a polite smile. "We'll soon be family. It's my duty." I could hardly contain my excitement. After all, the surprise I had planned was about to be revealed. The video started with a couple passionately entangled. The man was very forceful, while the woman seemed reluctant, like she was being coerced. Guests quickly realized something was off. After all, what kind of wedding video starts with an R-rated scene? The filming angle also looked like it was from a surveillance camera. Lucas's mom sensed something was wrong. Although the camera angle didn't clearly show the faces, the man wore the groom's suit, and the woman wore a bridesmaid's dress. It looked suspicious. She hurried back to find someone to turn off the video. But before she could, the movements made their faces clear. One was the groom himself. The other was my invited bridesmaid, my sister. Oh my God, isn't that Laura's sister, Nina? The brother-in-law and sister having an affair? This is dramatic even for a TV show. Oh my God. Is this scene free to watch? Two women fighting over one man. On the screen, they were on the verge of a critical moment, and Lucas's mom finally lost it and began to scream, "What's going on? Can't you see? Turn it off." The screen went black. No point in staying here. I put on an exaggerated smile. We still need to usher the groom in, right? With that, I lifted my skirt and walked towards the lounge. The bodyguards tried to stop me frantically. At this moment, another group of trained bodyguards cleared a path for me. I turned to look at Louis in the corner. He signaled me to keep going. I nodded in thanks and hurried toward the lounge. The door slammed open, the flashlights were so bright it was like daylight, the sound of camera shutters was non-stop. Nina screamed and wrapped herself in a blanket, burying her face as she cried. Lucas instinctively covered his eyes. "What are you doing? Shouldn't I be asking you that?" The groom hiding here having an affair instead of attending his wedding. I grabbed some clothes and tossed them at him. "Put these on. Don't you feel embarrassed showing that little pepper?" I walked to the back of the bed, yanked the blanket down, and mocked, "Isn't this my sister? Do you love my stuff so much? Enjoying it too?" Lucas roared, "Enough. It's not her fault." I crossed my arms and looked down at him. "Really? So you're saying you forced her? Get out. You did it, but you can't stand hearing about it? When you dragged my sister into this, didn't you think this day would come? What are you all doing? Just standing there laughing at my son? Get out." The reporters' cameras were confiscated, and they left reluctantly. Mom and Dad came in, dragging Nina to another room. Dad paced back and forth, like an enraged lion. Finally, he couldn't stand it anymore and slapped Nina. "How could you do this? Can you face your sister?" Nina covered her face, her eyes red with tears. I was forced. I watched her performance indifferently. "Really? If you were forced, why not report it?" She immediately refused. "No, their family is powerful. They'd come after us." Dad shook his head. "If you don't report it, how can we hold our heads high in this city? I'll be mocked as a father who sells his daughter for glory. I've been honorable all my life. Do I have to be humiliated now that I'm old?" Nina wept. "Dad, I did it for us. The company is your life's work. Should it be ruined because of me?" Dad said he'd risk the company to protect you. Why won't you call the police? Nina kept crying, unwilling to say more. Maybe she didn't even know her true intentions. I grabbed Nina's hair. You slut. It's bad enough that you're a slut, but you dragged the whole family down with you. She desperately defended herself. No, I just don't want things to get irrecoverable. Mom pulled my hand away, protecting Nina with a mix of hatred and pity in her eyes. Nina may be irresponsible, but she's still Mom's flesh and blood. She can't just ignore her. Laura, I know you're angry, but Nina is your sister. Her reputation is already ruined. Let her off just this once. All right. But she can't see Lucas anymore. Of course. Dad sighed deeply and decided to send her to a strict university. With the family issues resolved, we faced the new problem. Lucas had tidied up, looking like a proper gentleman. John cleared his throat and spoke. Men being a bit frivolous is no big deal. As long as you marry him, you'll be the absolute mistress of the house. John himself was quite a philanderer, so he didn't see anything wrong with his son's behavior. The only embarrassing part was getting caught at the wedding. What about Nina? What are you going to do about her? Lucas casually replied, she's not fit to be my wife, but it's not like I'm indifferent to her. I'll just keep her outside. So we're both staying in your life? You're dreaming you raped my younger daughter and humiliated my elder daughter at her wedding. I'm going to sue you in court, and I won't stop until you're ruined. It was unexpected that they could be so shameless, even making my well-mannered mother go crazy. Lucas' mom snapped back. Maybe you didn't raise your daughter well enough, and she seduced my son. If you want to sue my son, I'll have you bankrupt in no time. You. My mom was so angry she couldn't speak, clutching her chest repeatedly. I stepped forward and gently pushed my mom into my dad's arms. Sorry, but I'm not interested in women who don't respect themselves. I don't want to be like you, catching mistresses everywhere. I don't have that kind of hobby. I'd rather just confiscate the guy's tools of the trade. That solves the problem at its root. John said sternly, it was your family that begged for our partnership. Without us, you won't get far. I smiled faintly. Who said anything about breaking the engagement? I never said that, John sneered, that's what I thought. Our family merely has to stomp a foot and the whole city shakes. I chimed in, I plan to be with Louis. John gasped, are you crazy? Don't you know he's not the only heir? Lucas' face changed, everyone knows my uncle avoids women like the plague. You're dreaming. I'm willing. Louis rolled out in his wheelchair. Are you crazy? Louis's father seemed delighted. The youngest, smartest in the family, Louis had finished college by 16 and managed the family business by 20. But his health was fragile, and a car accident at 25 left him paralyzed, never to stand again. Louis's father had given up hoping for more and just wanted Louis to have a peaceful life. Now that Louis was willing to get married, he was overjoyed. Why would he stop him? Fine, I agree. Laura, you're as impressive as your grandmother. You two, one calm and one fiery, are a perfect match. Now, all the guests are our relatives and friends. We can continue with the wedding, right? With financial support, the venue was quickly rearranged. The bride was still me, but the groom became Louis. Such an explosive twist made the guests reluctant to leave. The wedding photo had been taken hastily in the hotel garden. It hung outside the banquet hall, looking perfectly normal. Lucas was seething below, and John's face wasn't any better. Do you agree to marry this man, for richer or poorer, in sickness and in health, to be with him for all time? I do. In the past life, he was the only one who helped me. And I knew he hated John's family too. Do you agree to marry this woman, for richer or poorer, in sickness and in health, to be with her for all time? I do. After the wedding, sensational news ensued. Groom and bride's sister caught cheating, groom switched at wedding, rich family feuds, all worthy of a dramatic soap opera. And it happened in real life. The wedding scandal caused the stocks of both families' companies to plunge. To protect J Group's stock price, John smeared Nina's name. He claimed Nina seduced Lucas, knowing he was her brother-in-law, and then played hard to get on the wedding day. That, suffocating under her sister's constant spotlight, she sought solace with her sister's fiancé to compensate for her inferiority complex. In such scandals, the woman is usually more vulnerable and easier to slut-shame, and public opinion soon skewed against her. Nina was labeled as a scheming, shameless gold digger who ruined her sister's wedding and marriage. By the time the market closed, J Group's stock price had returned to normal. "Laura, come back quickly. Your sister is trying to commit suicide. What should we do?" I left some instructions about work and hurried home. When I arrived, Nina was crying on the second-floor windowsill, an air cushion set up below. Firefighters stood around, some looking away, unable to watch her pitiful performance. "Just leave me alone, let me die, Nina, come down. Mom agrees to whatever you want. I can't live like this. The internet is calling me shameless, a seducer. But I didn't know he was my brother-in-law. I really didn't." Seeing me arrive, Mom grabbed my arm. "Please, talk to your sister. She saw those awful comments online and wants to die." I handed my bag to the maid and leisurely walked to Nina. Seeing me, she stopped sobbing, watching me with tearful eyes. I lifted my chin and pointed to the ground below. "Jump. I'll be right here watching you." Mom pulled me back. "What are you doing, pushing your sister to die?" I said coldly, "Jumping from the second floor won't kill you. At most, you'll break your legs." In my past life, after I died, Mom's hair turned white overnight. I couldn't force her to completely abandon Nina, I could only take it step by step. I had the maid drag Nina off the windowsill. "There is one way to restore your reputation." She huddled in a corner of the sofa, still crying, lost in her world. "What way?" Mom asked urgently. "Accuse Lucas of rape. I have the hotel hallway surveillance footage showing him dragging Nina into the room. With their breakup chats, even if he doesn't die, he'll be skinned alive." Their family had thought of the surveillance too and bribed the hotel staff to destroy it. Luckily, Louis anticipated this and copied it first. Hearing the details of Lucas bullying Nina again, Mom seethed with anger. "Too much. I'm suing them." After a moment, she calmed down, took my hand, and asked softly, "But if we sue him, won't Louis make things difficult for you? After all, you two just got married." "Mom, Louis gave me the surveillance footage. He fully supports me. Family relationships in wealthy circles are not as harmonious as they seem." Hearing this, Mom's last bit of hesitation vanished. She said firmly, "All right, then let's sue." "Mom, no, we can't." Just now playing dead, Nina sprang up like a zombie upon hearing this. Mom looked at her in surprise, and Dad, just walking in, overheard her words. He went up and slapped her. "Give me one good reason." "You can't, right? We're tied together through marriage and we still need the investment from Lucas's family." "Yeah, exactly." Her eyes lit up, finding a solid reason made her feel justified and self-righteous. She seemed to love playing the victim role, making the whole family feel like they owed her something. Mom was exasperated. "Your sister already said it. Louis supports her. Your dad isn't even worried about the company not getting investment. So why are you still coming up with these lame excuses?" Her parents were deeply disappointed in her. They were hesitant about sending her to the academy initially, but now they couldn't wait to get her out of the house. While waiting for the school to pick her up, they locked her at home. They knew I didn't want to see her, so they put her in a room far from mine to avoid any accidental encounters, but they couldn't understand Nina's mindset. The night before she left, she purposefully came to me. "Laura, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to ruin your wedding. I don't even know how things got this way." She started crying immediately. It seemed like she had mastered the skill of crying on cue over the years. Her tears used to make my heart ache, and I would give her whatever she wanted. But I never thought she would destroy our entire family over a man. I underestimated the destructive power of someone in love. "You think taking my man means you won? Let me tell you, he's just trash I threw away. If that makes you happy, go ahead and take him. She widened her eyes, looking incredulous. Laura, I'm just worried about you. Louis is Lucas's uncle. From his wife to his aunt, it'll drive him mad, and I fear he'll do something terrible. Plus, Louis is disabled, That's none of your concern. Worry about yourself. I survived once to realize I'm the villainess in this story. In my previous life, Lucas and I were childhood sweethearts, but the engagement was only verbal. I barely saw him. Nina is the protagonist of this world. She met thugs in a bar, and Lucas saved her. Naturally, they fell in love. Nina discovered that Lucas had a fiancé, and that fiancé was me, her sister. How could she love her own brother-in-law? Consumed with guilt, she left Lucas. To convince Lucas she'd moved on, she even accepted her admirer. Lucas, humiliated and angry, decided to get back at her. He decided to go through with our engagement and planned to humiliate her on our wedding day. In my previous life, I lost it, feeling betrayed by my husband and sister. I did many awful things to Nina. My actions only brought them closer, clearing up misunderstandings. In the end, I met the expected fate of a villainess, being gang raped to death. My parents were also sacrificed in their love story. One turned gray overnight from my death, the other committed suicide after the company went bankrupt. They lived happily ever after. Their love story destroyed my family. They were having a love affair regardless of who got hurt. Thinking back on my previous life, I felt taken over by someone else's soul. How could I only target Nina? Lucas was the main troublemaker, wasn't he? I would definitely deal with Lucas first, then come back for Nina. Lucas has committed almost half of the criminal code. Murder, arson, rape, kidnapping, all enough to put him away for life. Their toxic love story isn't over yet. My parents' wishes will probably go unfulfilled. During a meeting in the afternoon, an urgent call came in. The bodyguard on the other end told me and my father that Nina had been kidnapped. The kidnapping took place at an intersection. Video footage showed 5 cars blocking Nina's vehicle. She was taken into one of the 5 identical cars. All 5 cars had fake plates and headed to remote areas without surveillance. It was clearly a gangster's method. Nina was kidnapped in broad daylight. Mom fainted from anxiety. After receiving 2 saline bottles at home, she woke up asking about Nina's safety. Did they ask for ransom? No matter how much, agree to it. Don't let them hurt Nina. Nina won't be in danger. This isn't an ordinary kidnapping. Seeing she hadn't understood, I explained carefully. If it were normal kidnappers, they'd have called asking for ransom by now. It's been 6 hours and there's no news. So what do they want? To kill her? Mom asked, more desperate now. They've already achieved their goal by having Nina. Who could it be? Mom asked in a daze. Probably my useless nephew, Louis answered. He handed over some chat logs between Lucas and Nina. Nina, I'm leaving home. Stop looking for me. Lucas, how will you repay what you owe me? Nina, our matter has made my family very sad. They've abandoned me now. I'm going to the academy. You won't find me anymore, Lucas. You can't escape from me. Mom's worry turned speechless after reading the chat logs. While her parents were worried sick, these two were playing a cat-and-mouse love game. Now the key question is, where did Lucas hide Nina? That idiot used 5 cars to kidnap her, each heading in a different direction like some funeral procession. Louis told me not to be fooled by Lucas's flashy moves. Although he has several properties, that villa is the most likely place. He's pretty smart. That standalone villa has good security and offers a lot of privacy. Perfect for keeping things hidden. I took my parents straight to his villa and knocked on the door. He wouldn't open the door for a long time, so I had a bunch of people blow trumpets outside. The sound was loud and piercing. No matter how good the soundproofing, he couldn't stand it. Sure enough, after 2 songs, Lucas came out, looking frosty. He stood on the steps, looking down at me. What are you doing here? This is my home. Are you trespassing on private property? An uncle and aunt coming to visit their nephew isn't illegal, right? The bodyguard pushed Louis to the front. Lucas squinted his eyes, his tone turning dangerous. Uncle, are you really going against me? I spat. You're the one going against me. I went through so much trouble to send her away, and you brought her back. What's the idea? I walked past Lucas straight into the house and sure enough, caught Nina in the bedroom. Her face was still wet with tears, looking pitiful. The bed was a mess, clearly showing what had just happened. The air was thick with a sticky, fishy smell that was nauseating. My mom rushed in and got really anxious seeing this scene. Nina was wearing a spaghetti strap top, with ambiguous marks on it. What mother could stand seeing her daughter being treated like this? Mom said, if you still stand up for him, we'll cut our parent-child relationship. Mom, I was really forced. Nina repeated her usual excuse. I got straight to the point. I already called the police. Called the police for what? Lucas followed after hearing this. Kidnapping and unlawful detention, plus rape. How many years do you think you'll get? You really called the police? Nina couldn't believe I was serious, her mouth agape. The police soon arrived and took Nina and Lucas away. The police, doing their routine, asked, did he kidnap and rape you? No, we're just a couple having a fight, that's all, she replied. Hearing this, I was almost going crazy. My parents couldn't believe she would say that either. We had worked so hard to rescue her, and she stabbed us in the back. My mom threw her bag at her. You shameless thing. What do you take us for? Have you ever thought about us? I glared at Lucas. Lucas, either you marry Nina right now, or I'll spend everything I have to prosecute you. Lucas always thought he was just forcing Nina without consequences. Now that she was clearing his name so easily, he had to suspect she had other intentions. Why would I marry her? Just playing around. If you want to sue, I'm game. He was always arrogant, and didn't take kidnapping and rape charges seriously. What if I say I'll help her? Louis said calmly. Uncle, we are family. Lucas almost roared. If Lucas still had confidence in escaping legal consequences, Louis's threat took that away. Louis made a call, and someone came to handle their marriage certificate personally. Lucas's face was awful. I knew he felt trapped. He was like a stubborn mule that wouldn't move unless forced. If Nina married him, he wouldn't value her. He only found sneaky affairs thrilling. I'm curious about what will happen after they're married. Lucas took a silent defeat and pulled out his investment. But as soon as he did, Louis invested in the company, viciously stabbing Lucas in the back. Our company didn't suffer any loss. The biotech lab under our company is at a crucial stage, about to conquer the HIV virus. Once the drug is mass-produced, endless wealth awaits us. The R Group has never been the weaker partner in collaboration with the J Group. Without J Group's investment, our group has other options. In the past life, Lucas tried to bribe the lead researcher but failed. So he had Dr. Richard killed and poached his student. The student stole all the core data from the lab, set the lab on fire, destroying everyone's hard work, and ended up being celebrated. This time, he might try the same trick. But I won't let him get away easily. This time he's going to jail. At home, Nina was crying on the couch with tissues all around. She said Lucas abused her and took out all his frustrations on her. Seeing her bruised and battered, my parents couldn't stay mad at her. But I could tell she had ulterior motives. Even if I said so, how much would my parents believe? I had to play along. She said she wanted to work at the R Group, specifically in the core department. My parents hesitated. Although Nina majored in biology, she wasn't an outstanding student. She wouldn't be much help. Can't you work in administration? The director's office would teach you a lot. Nina insisted on joining the research institute. Do you really want to work in the research institute? I asked, staring at her. I do, she replied firmly. This was her last chance. How much is the R Group offering you? 50,000? I'll give you 100,000. The R group gave me a chance. I can't betray them for a higher salary. I appreciate your offer. Richard felt he was being followed. He looked back but saw no one and then opened his phone, ready to call the police at any moment. The killers secretly mocked Richard's actions. They followed him into an alley, gradually surrounding him. A stick swung at the back of Richard's head. He caught it steadily. The killers were astonished while Richard lifted his hat. Richard had been swapped under the killers' noses. You've been exposed, or rather, I've known about your plan from the start. I shined a bright flashlight in their faces. In a previous life, Richard died in this alley. His wife and daughter were still waiting for him to come home for dinner. In this life, he already got home safely. Lewis used some special methods to interrogate and extract the mastermind's identity. During a J Group shareholder meeting, Lewis revealed evidence of Lucas's crimes. He had the police arrest Lucas on the spot. John was furious, breathing heavily. You think taking him down means you can control J Group? You're dreaming. You're nothing but a cripple. Lewis looked up at John and said firmly, normally, I wouldn't be able to. 7 years ago, the culprit who caused my car accident was never found. You did everything meticulously without leaving traces. Lewis took out a handkerchief and wiped his hands, but your son was too foolish. The man he used this time was caught by me, and the first trial indeed brought some surprises. So, brother, you're going to prison too. Another group of police appeared and took John away. With business done, I also got a chance to deal with the internal traitors. The night the killers followed Richard, our group's lab also caught fire. Although we transferred the data in advance, the lab's destruction still caused significant loss to the company. Especially since the mastermind was my sister. This time, our parents no longer pleaded for her. Family ties had been exhausted by her repeated squandering. They realized this daughter was beyond saving and would drag them into the abyss. Call the police, let her serve her time. Mom said, defeated. For the first time, Nina ripped off her gentle and sweet facade. I'm your daughter, you can't do this to me. Why did I become like this? It's all because you favor Laura. Because you only see Laura. I've lived in her shadow for over 20 years. You don't know how much pain I've been. I don't want to be Laura's sidekick anymore. Just once, even just once, I want to surpass her. Mom finally couldn't stand her accusations any longer, slapped the table, and stood up, roaring, you always say I favor Laura. Can you say I haven't favored you? You're weak, and you're slow. Whenever it gets a bit tough or tiring, you throw tantrums. I've given in to you on everything. Several times, even knowing your sister was wronged, still had to ask her to tolerate you. I thought this way, you sisters would get along. It's my fault. I shouldn't have been lenient with you and shouldn't have made Laura give in to you because you're weak. Seeing Mom refuse to help her, Nina hugged Dad's leg. Dad, you can't leave me alone. I had no choice. If I didn't burn the lab, Lucas would have killed me. I really had no choice. She cried miserably, but Dad was unmoved, watching her coldly. I announced her judgment. Nina, you've lost your last chance. Take responsibility for your actions. No, never. She pulled out a knife to stab me. I was prepared and kicked her in the chest. You still want to harm Laura, truly unrepentant. Mom was heartbroken, Nina was hysterical, and chaos broke out at home. But the police arrived in time and took her away. In court, Lucas and Nina hurled accusations at each other. The once perfect couple had become unrecognizable, full of mutual hatred. In the end, one was sentenced to 10 years in prison for attempted murder for hire. The other got 5 years for arson. Leaving the courthouse, under the bright sun, Lewis and I shared a smile. A good life was just beginning.